So, can I say Alex?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks for talking to us. The magazine is called Vertigo. It's a magazine that really believes in a communal experience, movie as a communal experience. So we ask the readers and the other journalists to send in questions. So I'll be asking my own questions, but I'll also be stating other people's names.
Mm-hmm.
The questions that they send in, most of them were marriage proposals, but we'll skip those.
Okay.
So I was a bit surprised that you didn't show up in drag yesterday.
I know, someone mentioned that. Someone was disappointed last night, and I felt really bad. I just didn't really know how to top the San Francisco experience. So that all happened because our first AD on Diary of a Teenage Girl was a drag queen, a legendary San Francisco drag queen called Cousin Wonderlet. And Lady Bear, another San Francisco drag queen, was the casting director for the extras. And they were hosting this a screening at the Castro Theater in San Francisco of the movie for the cast and the crew and everyone who was involved in the movie. And both Mari, the director, and Yorma, her husband, are from the Bay Area, so like with their extended family and everyone. And these drag queens were going to host it and do a little thing from Rocky Horror Picture Show, and the after party was going to be at their club, and everyone got really excited about it. And I was like, all these people are going to show up in drag. I also want to come in drag. Like, this sounds like fun. So that's kind of how it all came about, and it was incredible. I loved it. And it took 4 hours. So it was the whole afternoon spent in a chair getting ready, and incredibly uncomfortable, but definitely worth it.
The shoes were uncomfortable.
Were killing me. Yeah. At the club after the screening of that, at the after party, I was walking around barefoot. It's like broken glass on the floor, but I didn't care. Those shoes were killing me.
So it's a one-time experience?
Probably not, man. I was pretty hooked.
Looking at this project, The Diary of a Teenage Girl, I can imagine it's a script that a script like this you don't come across often.
No, definitely not.
Were you immediately hooked, or?
Yeah, I was. I wasn't sent the script through my agents the way you usually receive scripts. It was actually my friend in LA, my neighbor, who's a dear friend of mine, basically said, my friend Mari wrote this script, and I think it's a tiny little indie. She's a first-time filmmaker, but I think it's really interesting. Do you want to take a look at it? And I said yes, and I read it that night, and I was just blown away by it. Like you said, it felt so unique and different, and very often when you read a script, you feel like it's a version of a movie you've already seen. You're like, even if it's well written, you're like, oh yeah, this is kind of like that movie, or this is kind of like that movie, or I've seen it before. This felt completely new and so interesting and fresh and honest, and it was great to read a coming of age story from a girl's point of view that wasn't where sexuality wasn't stigmatized.
Mm-hmm. Didier Bécu, he wonders if the part of Monroe wasn't hard to play.
It was and it wasn't. I would say it's always exciting when there's a challenge, in discovering the character, and there definitely was here, and that's kind of one of the reasons I really wanted to do the movie. I felt like, how do you, without condoning what he does, how can you make this, because you don't want it to be too predatory, because then it's not going to be interesting to follow this relationship. So that became I got excited about that opportunity to kind of find a character where you can almost make it uncomfortable for the audience because they want to hate him, but then maybe you can find moments where that connection between Minnie and Monroe is genuine and real, and where they almost root for them to be together, because then it becomes very uncomfortable and interesting. So it was difficult, but we had 2 weeks, Belle, Mari, and I, in San Francisco just before we started shooting, where we could play around with this relationship, and that's almost the favorite part of, or my favorite part of the job, because that's really when you discover, it's so creative and you have so much fun and you play around with it and the scenes and you discover new things together, and it's so collaborative, and that journey was fantastic.
What about his look? Because Hannah de Smet, she was wondering, was it hard to wear that? Her words, stupid mustache.
It wasn't. I mean, it was. I grew it. It wasn't like glued on. It was real, and no. It was just like when you create or come up with a character. It's like I don't know how it happened. I just like had this idea, this image in my head of him with a mustache, and I wasn't sure because it's always tricky when you do a movie that takes place in the 70s that you go too far and you have too much fun with facial hair or outfits, and then it becomes like a costume party, and it'll just look ridiculous, and then it won't feel real. And we were always very aware of that risk and finding that balance with the look of the characters. But I wanted to try it, and Maury said, "Yeah, you should go for it," and we did, and I kind of liked it. Was
there any resemblance to the character in the graphic novel?
Physically, you mean? Yeah. Like, no, not really.
He doesn't have the...
No. I just like the idea of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then a harder one, I guess. Anja Herses, she wonders what you would do if you would be in Monroe's position.
I would... it's difficult to say. Like, what he's doing is clearly not okay. But to me, the reason he does it is, I think in many ways, and that was kind of how I approached the character, I think he is deep down still 15 himself, and he's struggling with the fact that he is a grown man and taking responsibilities and all that kind of stuff. He's like trying. He goes to Est and all these, like, he's like tries to kind of be mature and do the right thing, but he can't. Like, he just, goes out and gets drunk and gets arrested and like walks around without shoes, like just like and also in terms of his relationship with Kristen's character, like I think he's afraid of commitment and afraid of that responsibility, and I think that's kind of the way in to Minnie, because she is youth personified, like she is, and being with her, it's like he gets to be a kid again. I don't really feel that desire, so I don't think I would end up in that situation.
Talking about desire, Anke Wouters, she came up with the question, you're being labeled as a sex symbol. It's something that...
not anymore, not after this.
That's the point we were getting to. Is this sort of a role that youth find interesting because it sort of undermines that whole Eric persona?
I wouldn't say like that. That wasn't why I wanted to do this movie, and it's not like I felt because of playing Eric Northman for 7 years, I felt like, well, now I got to go out and do something that's not like tonal like that, or I got to show a different side of my personality. And it wasn't that. It's just like you either get creatively excited about something or you don't, and when you do get excited about a project, it's just really important to stay true to that kind of inner voice when you start to develop the character. And I think if vanity comes into the picture, then it's a problem. Like when I pictured Monroe, what he would look like, I saw this mustache, and had I been like, well, that's not a good idea because people think, like one of the readers said, well, that's just silly or it looks ridiculous. Had I been like vain about that, I wouldn't have gone for it. But I'm not true to the creativity that I felt. Like, this is how he looked to me, and I'm very aware of that. And I think it's very important to stay true to that and not be like, well, how am I going to be portrayed, or will people still like me if I do it this way? Then if you do that, it's not truthful.
Something completely different. What's the grooviest thing you found out about living in San Francisco in the 70s?
It was just like, the whole experience was such a dream. Like, I've always wanted to do a movie that takes place in the 70s because it's just like such a great decade. And if you're going to do a movie that takes place in the 70s, where else? I mean, there's no better place than San Francisco, in the wake of like free love and late 60s and going into the 70s of like the flower power movement and the hippie culture and how curious people were. Everyone, it was about self-discovery and learning about yourself and like really connecting with yourself and other human beings around you and just break up the structure and just like be free. And I think it really helped the fact that we actually shot in San Francisco, because we had a lot of people around us that were around in the 60s and 70s who could help out, and a lot of our crew members had been around back then. And even when we shot like the acid scene, like there were people in the crew who were like, let me tell you a little bit how it went down, like this is how you play it. It was just an amazing experience.
Since we're talking locations, here in Ghent today, the movie was the first American production of a Belgian company called Caviar. What is there? Do you have a relationship, a connection with Belgium at all? Had you ever been here before?
I'd been to Brussels before, and then working with Bert and everyone at Caviar for the past year, I've obviously gotten to know them. But we shot it in the States. It feels really nice coming here now because it's like this is the very end of the press tour. It opened in the States a couple of months ago, so we did like the whole States, the tour in the States, and we went to London for the release in the UK. And but it's really lovely to be here with Caviar, and like some of them are from Antwerp, which is not far, and we went out for dinner last night, and to premiere it here in front of a Belgian audience, it's a nice way to end the whole kind of press tour. And I was really overwhelmed last night. It was just like the response was fantastic, and I can't believe how many people showed up. It was really, really great.
One last one that's sort of quick but sort of isn't. It's sort of a movie quiz. I'll blurt out some titles of movies and you just say the first thing that comes into your mind, if that's okay. Okay. Zoolander.
Orange Mocha Frappuccino.
Melancholia.
End of the World.
Straw Dogs.
I just keep thinking fire. I just remember like shooting in when we set the house on fire, and it was just like the chaos of running around in that.
Battleship.
Hawaii.
What Macy knew.
Onata plays the little girl in it. Amazing.
The East.
I'm thinking like Commune, like living together. We shot it in Shreveport, and it was like we became like a little family, almost like the group in the East. It was one of the most bonding, intense experiences of my career.
The Diary of a Teenage Girl.
Groovy.
And then last but not least, Tarzan.
One word, or oh god, it was such the most amazing experience. It was. I went from this to doing Tarzan, like jungle, but fake jungle, because we that was like when you say Tarzan, I just see like green leaves and trees and like vines and swinging. And we built up, they had these big, we couldn't shoot it in the jungle, unfortunately, because it's just like, with a crew of, it was a very big movie, so 300 people, and it's just, it's very difficult to shoot in the rainforest. So they had these, it was an old airplane factory, so these massive hangars in Watford in North London, where they built up real jungle sets. So they had real trees and vines and like leaves and rocks and rivers flowing inside this industrial area. So the most vivid memory of that experience is jungle. Like it would even smell like a real jungle in there, and we would run around and like have this like really intense experience. And then it'd be like lunch break, and you just open the door and you're in Watford in North London in this like industrial area. And it was just that dichotomy was just the craziest ever. But I had such an amazing David Yates, the director of that, is genius, and to work with people like Samuel Jackson and Crystal Walls and Margot Robbie was just such a dream.
Something to look forward to for us.
Oh yeah, for me as well. I loved it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, man. Pleasure.